Srivasadi Gaur. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Continuing to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 21, Text 31. Yad Pada Seva Viruchis Tapasvinam.
Yat Pada Seva Viruchis Tapasvinam.
Ashesha Janmo Pachitam Malam Diya.
Ashesha Janmo Pachitam Malam Diya.
Tadya Shinoti Anvaham Idhati Sati.
Satya Shinoti Anvaham Edati Sati.
Yatha Padano Gushthamini Hishrita Sarat.
Yatha Padan Gushta Vinishrita Sarit.
So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. By the inclination to serve the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, suffering humanity can immediately cleanse the dirt which has accumulated in their minds during innumerable births. Like the Ganges water which emanates from the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord, such a process immediately cleanses, and thus spiritual or Krishna consciousness gradually increases. In India, one can actually see that a person who takes a bath in the Ganges water daily is almost freed from all kinds of diseases. A very respectable Brahmana in Calcutta never took a doctor's medicine. Even though he sometimes felt sick, he would not accept medicine from the physician, but would simply drink Ganges water, and he was always cured within a very short time. The glories of Ganges water are known to Indians and to ourselves also. The river Ganges flows by Calcutta. Sometimes within the water, there are many stools and other dirty things which are washed away from the neighboring mills and factories. But still, thousands of men take baths in the Ganges water, and they're very healthy as well as spiritually inclined. That is the effect of the Ganges water. The Ganges is glorified because it emanates from the toes, the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, if one takes to the service of the lotus feet of the Lord or takes to Krishna consciousness, he is immediately cleansed of the many dirty things which have accumulated in his innumerable births. We have seen that in spite of the very black record of their past lives, persons who take to Krishna consciousness become perfectly cleansed of all dirty things and make spiritual progress very swiftly. So, when we are dirty, if we take a shower, we clean ourselves with soap and water, we become clean. There's a process, though, of course. Somebody is taking a shower, then we can't say, oh, why are you still dirty? Yeah, sure, he's taking a shower. In due course, he will become clean. Similarly, when we take up the hearing and chanting, service to Krishna begins by hearing. When we take up hearing and chanting, gradually, all the material dust which is there in our heart gets purified. Therefore, Pṛthu Mahārāja advises that without the benediction of the Supreme Lord, one cannot make advancement, either in so-called morality, economic development, or sense gratification. One should therefore take to the service of the Lord or Krishna consciousness, and thus very soon become a perfect man, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma Shashvat Chanti Nigacchati. Being a responsible king, Pṛthu Mahārāja recommends that everyone take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus be immediately purified. So the Pṛthu Mahārāja, he is giving this instruction is not only for his citizens, but for us to follow too. For us also to do our duties, whatever duties we have for the satisfaction of Krishna. Now again, he's saying take the service of the Lord so one can get purified. He's telling this to his citizens, but this instructions is for us too. Lord Sri Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that simply by surrendering unto him, one is immediately relieved of all sinful reactions. As Krishna takes away all the sinful reactions of a person immediately upon his surrender unto him, similarly, the external manifestation of Krishna, the representative of Krishna, who acts as the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, takes all the resultant actions of the sinful life of the disciple immediately after the disciple's initiation. So at the time of initiation, the Guru may agree to accept all the karma of the disciple so that the disciple can begin with a clean slate. Thus, if the disciple follows the principles instructed by the spiritual master, he remains purified and is not contaminated by the material infection. Sometimes the spiritual master may take all the karma, sometimes he may take part of it. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu therefore said that the spiritual master who plays the part of Krishna's representative has to consume all the sinful reactions of his disciple. Sometimes the spiritual master takes the risk of being overwhelmed by the sinful reactions of the disciples and undergoes a sort of tribulation due to their acceptance. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised that one not accept many disciples. So what happens is, because the spiritual master takes on the sins of the disciple, and even after initiation, if the disciple is not following the regulative principles, then it may adversely affect the health of the spiritual master. Like when Srila Prabhupada was still here, and Srila Prabhupada, so one astrologer or somebody, he came, especially he took a plane to come to meet Srila Prabhupada. In those days, plane travel was not very common. And he said, I need to speak to Srila Prabhupada. So they allowed him to speak to him. And then he said, you're becoming so sick right now is because you're allowing people to touch your murti in Vrindavan temple, Krishna Balaram temple.
Hare Krishna, we can't hear you, Shilpa.
Oh, you're not able to hear me?
Now we
properly study. I can hear.
Now I can hear. Earlier we couldn't hear that incident.
Okay. So now it's okay.
You could repeat.
So yeah. So then he was telling Srila Prabhupada that, you're so sick because you're still alive here and you're allowing people to touch your murti, your feet. So you're taking on all the sinful reactions. So Prabhupada looked at him and he said, I know, that's the reason I'm doing it. That's the compassion of Srila Prabhupada. He knew that when people are touching his murti's feet, he's taking their sinful reactions, and yet he was willing to do that for all of us so that we can become Krishna conscious. That's the compassion devotee. His murti form, usually they're not allowed, they don't do that. Not that they're not allowed. Usually they don't, because otherwise they get too much reactions on the body. Srila Prabhupada had a lot of reactions on the body. Vinirdhota Shesha Manomala Puman.
Vinirduta Shesha Mano Malapuman.
Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan.
Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan.
Yadangiri Mule Krita Ketana Punar.
Yat Angri Mule Kritaketana Punar.
Na Samsritam Kleshavaham Prapadyate.
Na samshritam kleshavaham prapadyate.
When a devotee takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is completely cleansed of all misunderstanding or mental speculation, and he manifests renunciation. This is possible only when one is strengthened by practicing bhakti yoga. Once having taken shelter at the root of the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee never comes back to this material existence, which is full of the threefold miseries. As stated by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtaka instructions, by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, or by the process of hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord, one's mind is gradually cleansed of all dirt. So this is the only way that we can purify our consciousness, purify our mind. There's no other way, no other process, no other puja, dhan, punya, nothing can take away our desire, material, the future material desire. It's only by chanting, by hearing the glories of the Lord, due to our material association since time immemorial. We have accumulated heaps of dirty things in our minds. We don't even know what's there. We really don't know. We think it's very nice and clean. But once, we may think the room is nice, there's nothing wrong with it. But once we start cleaning it, we'll realize, oh, it's dirty here also. Oh, this also needs to be cleaned away. Oh, this needs to be thrown away. So we really don't even know how much dirt is there. The total effect of this takes place when a living entity identifies himself with his body and is thus entrapped by the stringent laws of material nature and put into the cycle of repeated birth and death under the false impression of bodily identification. So we have completely forgotten we are the souls, we are thinking we are the body, and because we are thinking we are the body, we do so many activities for which we get reactions, and then we are creating future lives for us to either enjoy or suffer those reactions. When one is strengthened by practicing Bhakti Yoga, his mind is cleansed of this misunderstanding, and he is no longer interested in material existence or in sense gratification. So we can see the word Prabhupada is using, misunderstanding. Well, what's the misunderstanding? What is our misunderstanding?
We think we are the
Separation of bodily identification.
Yeah, we think we are the body.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes, that's our. And we think that is our understanding, not misunderstanding. But yeah, bhakti or devotional service is characterized by vairagya and jnana. So when one engages in bhakti, automatically one gets jnana and vairag. We do not need to separately endeavor for these. Why? Because by bhakti we are getting the real knowledge. And as we are getting real knowledge, automatically we will get vairag from this world. It's just simultaneously. As we keep eating food, we get satisfied, we get stronger. We feel our hunger is we don't need to eat more. It happens simultaneously. Similarly, as we engage in bhakti, simultaneously we get jnana and vairag. Jnana refers to understanding that one is not his body, and vairag means disinterest in sense gratification. These two primary principles of separation from material bondage can be realized on the strength of bhakti yoga. Thus, when a devotee is fixed in the loving service of the lotus feet of the Lord, he will never come back to this material existence after quitting his body, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita by the Lord. Tyakta deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. Fixed in the loving service of the lotus feet of the Lord. So at least we should try to come to the understanding that I'm eternal part and parcel of Krishna, and it is my duty to engage in devotional service. Now, it's very difficult for us to come to that point because, we have too many material desires. We have been in the world for a very long time. But if we can chant by taking shelter of the Panchatattva, taking shelter of God Nidai, then easily we will be able to come to this position. In this verse, the word Vigyan is specifically important. Gyan, the knowledge of spiritual identity that one attains when he does not consider himself to be the body, is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Brahmabhuta, the revival of spiritual realization. So what is the Brahmabhuta platform?
Spiritual realization that we are not this body, we are the eternal spirit soul.
Thank you. In the conditioned state of material existence, one cannot be spiritually realized because he identifies himself materially. The understanding of the distinction between material existence and spiritual existence is called Gyan. After coming to the platform of Gyan or the Brahmabhuta state, one ultimately comes to devotional service, in which he completely understands his own position and the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Gyan, we are saying to understand, I'm not the body, I'm spirit soul. What is Vigyan?
I'm the body and I'm not. I'm the body, right?
No, Vigyan means to understand our position and position of God. That is Vigyan. Gyan means understanding I'm the spirit, I'm not the body.
Okay.
That's Gyan, that I'm spiritual. But Vigyan, to understand our position, I'm eternal servant of Krishna. Krishna is my supremely worshipable Lord. This understanding is explained here as Vigyan Visheshan. The Lord says, therefore, that knowledge of him is Vigyan, science. In other words, when one is strengthened by scientific knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his position of liberation is guaranteed. So the more we try to understand Krishna, the more we will be able to understand our position. The more the sun rises, then more we are able to see clearly. So Maya is like darkness and Krishna is the sun. Jaha Krishna waha nahi Mayara adhika. It's there in Caitaniya Caritamita. In Bhagavad Gita 9.2, the science of devotional service is described as Pratyaksha Vagamamam Dharmyam, direct understanding of the principles of religion by realization. So, when we are eating food, no one has to tell us, hey, now your hunger is satisfied, now you're feeling nourished, now you're feeling stronger. We can feel it ourselves. That's how it is with devotional service. It is realized from within. We will have that realization. No one has to tell us anything. We simply engage in hearing and chanting, and the knowledge will be realized by us. Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam. Direct understanding of the principles of religion by realization. By practicing Bhakti Yoga, one can directly perceive his advancement in spiritual life. In other practices like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Dhyan Yoga, one may not be confident about his progress. But in Bhakti Yoga, one can become directly aware of his progress in spiritual life, just as a person who eats can understand that his hunger is satisfied. Our false appetite for enjoyment and lordship of the material world is due to a prominence of passion and ignorance. So these two modes are really very strongly holding us here, passion and ignorance. By Bhakti Yoga, these two qualities are diminished, and once one becomes situated in the mode of goodness. Gradually surpassing the mode of goodness, one is situated in pure goodness, which is not contaminated by the material qualities. So right now, because we are too much in passion and ignorance, as we engage in devotional service, gradually, passion and ignorance won't be there. We will be situated in goodness, but we can't stop there. You know why? Because that's also material. It's binding. we need to transcend. So we cannot stop hearing and chanting or devotional service even when we come to the mode of goodness. We continue with hearing and chanting. So the transcend. Transcend means liberated platform. Means we can understand, we realize our spiritual position. When thus situated, a devotee no longer has any doubts. He knows that he will not come back to this material world. So we can see that how by hearing and chanting we can be situated on this liberated platform. Tam eva yuyam vajatatma vrittibhir
Tam eva yuyam vajatatma vrittibhir
mano vachakaya gune swakarmabhi
mano vachakaya gune swakarmabhi
amayana kamado dughangri pankajam
amayena kama dukhankri pankajam
yathadhikara siddhaya
yatha dikara vasiddhartha siddhaya.
Pṛthu Mahārāja advised his citizens, engaging your minds, your words, your bodies, and the results of your occupational duties, and being always open-minded. You should all render devotional service to the Lord. According to your abilities and the occupations in which you are situated, you should engage your service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with full confidence and without reservation. Then you will surely be successful in achieving the final objective in your life. As stated in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Swakarmana tam abhyarchya. One has to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by one's occupational duties. This necessitates accepting the principle of 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. Pṛthu Mahārāja therefore says, Gunesva karma bhi. This phrase is explained in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnyam maya shishtam guna karma vibhagasa. The 4 castes, the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, are created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the material modes of nature and the particular duties discharged in those modes. So based on guna and karma, Krishna has designed this Varnashrama society, and based on guna and karma, we are placed in these different sections. A person who is situated in the mode of goodness is certainly more intelligent than others. Therefore, he can practice the Brahmanical activities, namely speaking the truth, controlling the senses, controlling the mind, remaining always clean, practicing tolerance, having full knowledge about one's self-identity, and understanding devotional service. In this way, if he engages himself in the loving service of the Lord as an actual Brahmana, his aim to achieve the final interest of life is attained. Similarly, the Kshatriya's duties are to give protection to the citizens, to give all his possessions in charity, to be strictly Vedic in the management of state affairs, and to be unafraid to fight whenever there is an attack by enemies. In this way, a Kshatriya can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his occupational duties. So we can see that right now, we do not have Brahmanas and Kshatriyas in the world, you know. Where are they? The Kshatriyas, we don't have any Kshatriyas. The Brahmanas, we don't have them. So similarly, a Vaishya can satisfy the Supreme Godhead by properly executing his occupational duties, engaging himself in producing foodstuffs, giving protection to cows, and trading, if necessary, when there is an excess of agricultural production. Similarly, because Shudras do not have ample intelligence, they should simply engage as workers to serve the highest statuses of social life. Everyone's aim should be to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by engaging his mind and thinking always of Krishna, his words and always offering prayers to the Lord or preaching about the glories of the Lord, and his body in executing the service required to satisfy the Lord. So it doesn't matter where are we in the social order, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. The aim is to satisfy Krishna by our mind, words, and activities. Mind thinking of Krishna, words offering prayers to Krishna, or speaking glories of Krishna, and the body engaging in service to Krishna. So let's see how much is there. We'll just finish this paragraph.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So then, as there are 4 divisions within our body, the head, the arms, the belly, and the legs, similarly, human society, taken as a whole, is divided into 4 classes of men according to their material qualities and occupational duties. Thus, the Brahmanical or intelligent men have to execute the duty of the head, the Kshatriyas must fulfill the duty of the arms, the Vaishya class must fulfill the duty of the belly, and the Shudras must fulfill the duty of the legs. In executing the prescribed duties of life, no one is higher or lower. There are such divisions as higher and lower, but since there is actually a common interest to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are no distinctions between them. So you see, it doesn't matter if one is born a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or Shudra. It doesn't matter. It's just what gunas we have and what work we do. But the central point is to use our guna and karma for the satisfaction of Krishna. That is the important. So, are there any comments or questions? Yeah, then let's keep here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta